Welcome to the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Trish.
And this is our podcast. We talk about wrestling news and various topics from different promotions, primarily AEW, but also New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, and topics from around the wrestling world. Whatever we find interesting, and we hope you will too. We are a proud member of the Social Suplex Podcast Network, and you can find our content on our podcast feed, the Social Suplex Podcast feed, as well as on Twitter and YouTube. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast. We also, for a limited remaining time, have a store available at Chopped Tees, which is unfortunately going out of business on November 25th, 2025. Dickie has done his absolute best to manage his store despite all of the economic uncertainty and the redacted
tariffs.
Yeah, American nation tariffs. But unfortunately, it's just not sustainable, and so Chopped Tees will be closing. So if you've ever wanted to get a piece of Trish and Sarah merch, now's the time. The store will be up until November 25th, and orders will be processed till November 25th, and then we are donezo. So, please feel free to take a look, but if it's okay if you don't want, I don't know, it feels weird asking people to buy things. It's okay if you don't want anything. It's cool.
I just want to say, thank you to Dickie for even attempting to run such a venture and supporting us, supporting a whole Social Suplex, the likes of Post Wrestling and Poison Rana and various others, because, you can't have these things, otherwise, unless someone actually makes the effort these days individually. And it's a real shame that the current climate has seen to it. But thank you for your support. I think it was insane to think we could ever have a merch line.
He's been a spectacular partner to everybody at Social Suplex, and we've all been grateful to work with him. So, it stinks, but we're also grateful for the time that we did have, and the merch line that we did have, because I have a shirt with my own name on it, which is just insane. We also have the Social Suplex newsletter, which is published monthly and available at socialsuplex.com. It contains tons of news from dozens of promotions around the world and is not going out of business. So the Social Suplex Network newsletter is available to you. So please feel free to check it out. Today is Sunday, November 9th, 2025, and Trish and I are back, tanned, rested, ready, moisturized.
Where did we get tanned?
Now we could be tan. They don't know. They don't see us. We could fully be aggressively
tanned. I work on
tanned.
fucking trains.
In my mind, I'm rocking an incredible tan.
You are, yeah.
Trains in the Caribbean, maybe. They don't have trains in the Caribbean. We're here to talk wrestling, folks, and we're here to discuss one of the topics that's been a little bit more discussed in the last week or so, which is WWE's attendance and the new rating system, and WWE and the new rating system. WWE attendance has kind of come up most recently. Last weekend was the 1-2 punch of a Friday SmackDown and a Saturday night PLE in Salt Lake City, Utah. Neither one of which did incredibly well. The Salt Lake City SmackDown taping had, I think it was 4,300 attendees. And then the PLE did not sell out, which, listen, Salt Lake City is not exactly a hotbed of wrestling, but it certainly didn't seem like it was a particularly good sign. So Trish and I wanted to take a deep look into the numbers for the WWE attendance. Are they in trouble? Is this just a little bit of a slight downward trend? Are they going to bounce back spectacularly, especially now that CM Punk, the huge draw, has won his first WWE title in quite some time?
It's his second WWE title, mate.
Well, in this go round. Oh no, he did. That's right. I forgot.
He had the 2-minute run that ended with Seth Rollins' song being sung out.
I actually watched that.
It was very memorable, clearly.
Yes, I repressed it because that's right. He did. He won the title for like 35 seconds. He was sweating. He was so red. I was concerned he was going to have a heart attack. That was really what retained my memory. But yeah, Trish. Salt Lake City, not great. Some of these upcoming advances, not good. I mean, I understand WWE is still really, really hot right now, but are we in trouble here? What are we thinking about the post-Cena future for WWE?
That was like a full setup, wasn't it? Like, I just say nothing now? Just like, yeah, it's fucked. No, I'm kidding.
Listen.
No. You said listen. I'm listening.
I'm listening to the silence of the empty arenas at WWE.
Oh! This is how this is going to go today, yeah?
We missed you. We're gonna be assholes. You missed us, hopefully.
Okay, so to steal a line from Brandon Thurston, there is a difference between popularity and profit, right?
Correct.
And this is something that we're looking at pretty much here. So it's very easy to look at the overall year and think that they're in great business up to now, because you look at the estimated tickets distributed for Raw and SmackDown. And 2021, they had 7.5K, 2022, 7.6K, 2023, 9.9, 2024, 11,000 average, and this year up to October 20th, 11,500. So you go, okay, yeah, they're still in actual growth in terms of ticket sales. And, you know, it would be very easy just to do that whole figure. And I think that's something that we often do, is we look at an average, or we look at that and go, okay, yeah, so everything's fine, right? So, for example, like when AEW were really buoyed by first-run numbers, in 2021, 2022, you ignored all the kind of other signs of, downturn or second visits or things that look weaker, because you said, hey, they're doing this huge average because they're doing, first run in Los Angeles, first run in Detroit, first run, etc. Right? And so sometimes the top end of the story isn't always what's kind of in the average. So you need to look a little bit underneath. And there's been some big things with what they do that means actually we should be seeing an increase in terms of the people that they get for Raw and SmackDown. And funny enough, I was trying to think of a good way of putting this, and then Nick Khan just did it for me.
He's so helpful like that.
He's so helpful. Thanks. Is he a big dog? Is he a big dog?
I think he thinks he's a big dog.
Yeah. There's going to be loads of Celebrity Traitors references today. I'm sorry, it's just going to happen. So there you are. So on a TKO results call this week, Nick Khan said, looking at WWE's live event business heading into 2026, we've increased prices appropriately within the marketplace. That's for the PLEs, Raw, SmackDown, Saturday's main event, and every other ticketed program that WWE has. We remain bullish on it. A couple of years ago, when TKO was stood up, one of the first things that we collectively did was reduce the non-televised live events, which created more scarcity in the marketplace for our televised events, and our continued international expansion only furthered that. Even in January, you'll see us on a European tour for some Raw and SmackDown, leading into the Royal Rumble, which takes place in Saudi Arabia. Tickets are already on fire for this event, and again creates more scarcity in the United States, which is a good thing for our overall gate. So the idea of this whole strategy since TKO have come in was to get rid of the house shows.
Yep.
And then make these television shows destination events. And this is kind of similar if you want to think about it to like a sports comparison. And I'm probably going to throw quite a few real world comparisons out there, because WWE and AEW in terms of ticket sales are not in situ. They don't live on their own here. It's part of kind of climatic conditions as well. But their whole idea is to make them destination events in the same way that the NFL have been able to do that with regular season games. Right? Yep. So the NFL with regular season games, they have games in different cities. They'll go do a game in Mexico City. Excuse me. They'll do a game in London or do a game in Dublin. And then they're going to make the games that are remaining a whole kind of experience in themselves. And you're going to exacerbate that by having additional stakes, because you've got a wider kind of playoff system. But also they're going to make it so it's more attractive for, hey, you know what, you're going to go, I don't know, let's go to Denver for a weekend and watch whoever we support play the Denver Broncos. You make it that away support, that whole thing is kicked in as well now. So the idea is that the regular season games are an attraction in themselves. You're not waiting to the playoff to want to buy a ticket. You're going to treat that like something that you want to go to, that you can make an event out of. And that's what WWE are hoping to do with their televised events. So the idea is that you can charge more for them because you are making them destinations in themselves, because you've taken away the house shows and you're taking away some of the televised shows and the pay-per-views or PLEs to the international market, and you create that scarcity. So then actually you'd be willing to go 200 miles to your nearest kind of big city, like Philadelphia or I don't know, if you're out in the middle of Salt Lake City, right? The idea is that you will go, and do you know what? I'll spend the weekend. I'll go to Saturday's main event, I'll go to SmackDown, and then I'll stay in that city because they want the site fee from that. The whole idea of this is that the television becomes destination kind of ticket buying wise, in the same way that the PLEs are. It's not the idea that these numbers are supposed to be static. They are not supposed to drop. There is no cycle allowed in pro wrestling anymore.
Right.
Because they need continued growth, because they're trying to have continued profit. And if you start losing the numbers, you can't do that and then keep charging more and more. You'll suddenly it start to fall away. Yep. So they absolutely need it to grow each year in terms of their attendance, and then the profit on the back in terms of being able to raise their ticket prices as well. Yep. It's not built into their system for any of these things to decrease. And that's where I think some of the discussion is lost, because the idea is, they're still putting up strong numbers, but they weren't what they were. And in a regular time, in a wrestling company, that would be seen as okay, because people know that wrestling works in cycles and we go like this. This is not what we do in TKO, is it? It's not what they do. They have to keep growing, and they have to keep kind of developing their profit margins. So just to give us an idea of how many shows they have demolished, quite frankly, they've gone from running, it's about just under half the events now. Or 60%, they run 60% of the events that they ran in 2019. So that's the kind of the big difference. And they have managed to double their ticket pricing. In fact, they're up to 60% increase based on the Polestar numbers, thanks to a survey done by Brandon Thurston, on what they were last year. But here comes the market to markets. So when you look at their growth, and you look at the way you potentially have decreased, one of the quickest ways to do it is to look at the market-to-market increases and decreases. So these are shows in the same market, same event type. And I know that I use the same methodology as Brandon uses, where we will compare a Raw to a Raw and a SmackDown to a SmackDown, because you're trying to have the same kind of conditions, right? So there's a difference between Friday night, in terms of a live event kind of thing, and Monday night. And then you balance that out with the tradition of Monday Night Raw compared to SmackDown as well. So what you're looking at is 2023, they run through a whole year of more positive, so more increases going back to the same markets than decreases. And then in 2024, the first 3 quarters we see the same, and then in quarter 4 is the first quarter in recent times where we saw more decreases than increases. And I thought that was really interesting last year. And we pointed this out at the time because Q3 had been saved somewhat by John Cena turning up.
Yep.
So he turned up and he'd done a run of shows, and they'd seen huge kind of spikes every show that he was announced for. And in quarter 4 it started to fall away. And we always acknowledged that quarter 4 to winter is the hardest time to sell tickets, right?
Yes.
But it seemed to be a question of how much would Cena carry them in 2025, and then how much, and the thing that we didn't expect was the impact of the Raw debut on Netflix. So that did actually spike them up in the first quarter of 2025, and they went back to 16 positive, 6 negative. Carried again Q2, 21 positive, 5 negative. Q3, you go back to the negative, right? 13 positive, 15 negative, and then Q4, so just October, in the last month they've had 2 growth shows and 4 kind of loss. And they're quite big. So Cincinnati dropped 42% from the last SmackDown on April 24. Dallas for Raw dropped 18% from January 25. San Jose, so here's the trick one. So that looks great because it's going up from 2021 by 96%, but it's actually down from Raw this year, back in January. And then Anaheim up from Raw in February 2024, which is the last strong kind of number that they have without John Cena being involved. Yep. And then, Salt Lake City was down 50% from SmackDown in November 2024. And the Saturday night's main event attendance was down from that SmackDown number in 2024 as well. So even being a special TV event wasn't enough to deliver them the number that they could do for a regular standard SmackDown a year ago. And I think it's like, it's funny because we've been speaking about this all year. We could see it coming. You could see the kind of the trend coming, and you could see the impact that Cena was having in terms of capturing it. But they fell into so many of the little traps that they kind of have a real difficulty of going from here in terms of trying to maintain the same levels. So not only are you losing John Cena in a month, and he has, 3 appearances left now. So tomorrow night in your town.
Oh, yeah.
It, actually.
Boston.
Yeah, in the Garden.
Yep.
Then Madison Square Garden the week after, and then the Washington, D.C. Saturday Night's Main Event retirement show.
And then the DC, excuse me, not the DC show, the Madison Square Garden show and the Boston Garden show are not sold out. So they're still, I mean, they've sold a lot of tickets. I'm not going to say they haven't sold a shit ton of tickets, but they're not sold out. So it's like, and I got a notification because I think, you get when you've gone to shows in certain places, and I've gone to a bunch of shows in the Garden, they send you emails. They were like, hey, if you want to get a suite, you can get a suite. Like, we'll do a special suite price if you get 6 people together, and it'll be like $250. And like, like they were really pushing tickets for this in a way that I was kind of surprised that they thought they had to, because you'd think that Cena's last match in Boston or last appearance in Boston would sell itself, but somehow it hasn't. It's genuinely, I thought that was fascinating.
And I guess it's that thing of how much are people willing to pay,
right?
And do they estimate it in the same way as they did with UFC? So with UFC, like, people are willing to pay $500-$600 a ticket. Is that the same with wrestling? Is that the same with WWE for a Raw or a SmackDown? And that's what you're testing. And the problem that they have is if you find that market's then lacking, then what do?
Right.
What is the answer for them? And then what you're going to do is, when you're going back to these places now, you're not going back with John Cena. So you look at that Grand Rapids advance that's shooking everybody up.
Yeah, everybody's been crazy about this one today. What is the number on it?
We have it.
I got it right here.
So the show back in June, the SmackDown that Cena was on, did 10,661, and the current number for the December the 10th SmackDown is 1,397.
So it's like 90% drop, and it's they've got a ton of time
early
to sell tickets. They will absolutely sell more tickets than that. They're not going to sell only 2,000 tickets, but that's a pretty, their advances. I think that's another piece of this. The advances for a lot of these shows, you can see, have dropped significantly. They're not selling out as quickly as they did, which is also interesting.
And you can say that's like around the price points, but they lower at the end and they're still not getting there.
Right.
And it's not like they're just keeping them high. No, they are lowering at the end. But you're losing Cena, so you're not going to have Cena return appearances. And then The Rock, right? So I read a very interesting quote last week where they said, Salt Lake City, and it's funny because you think they had a world title win on this show.
Yep.
And they were like, yeah, but last time they were here, the second last time they were here, they had The Rock, and it was different. So you fall into that trap now where you've had all these part-timers and things coming in, and you've used them to save all your houses, and you've kind of destabilized the people that were building your attendance when we talk about, like, the Roman Reigns Sami Zayn story and the Cody Rhodes thing. Yep. So you've kind of made them all secondary, and you went to the cheap pops, you went to these part-time guys, you went to all these people coming in and like, oh, we saved this number because we brought Cena in for this round, and we saved this number because The Rock came in, and now we've got this new signing from AEW, and we've got this new signing and this new signing, and now you're at that point, which is what AEW were doing in 22-23, where when you go back, you're delivering less.
Yes.
And you want more for it, which was also very similar. But yeah, you are delivering less and you want more. And when you look at their outlook and you look at who they've got and the lack of kind of, they're very much at their ceiling as well, where no one really feels like they're being elevated.
Nope.
And everything's static at the top. And you think, okay, so what reason would you have to want to go to that show again that you've seen? And at this time, when you're going to probably see less of these people, or you're being less invested than you were at this point. And it's a key thing because, we're now at a situation where people are much, much more picky about what they do and how they spend their money, because everything's more expensive, and especially the big things, right? So this is the thing around the destination shows. So it's very successful for the PLEs and that sort of thing. And this is why you can see like Survivor Series in San Diego doing really well. It's like, okay, so I only have this much money. I can't afford to go to this show, this show, this show. So I'm going to pick somewhere where I can incorporate it into maybe a city stay, and I can go to that show, and I know it's going to be of a certain quality, or allegedly should be, or have, certain. You're going to see certain talents. Therefore, it's so similar in a way to what happened with AEW over the last few years. It's uncanny, isn't it? It's funny how everyone slips into the same cycle, but you know that you can see these people. So actually, if I want to go see John Cena, for PLE now, and I don't want to pay the Washington prices, I'm going to go to San Diego, right? Or if I want to see Roman Reigns, where am I going to see Roman Reigns? Guess what? It's not going to be in Omaha, Nebraska on a Friday night, is it?
Right.
You're going to... So you have these things where you define the value, and for Raw and SmackDown now to be kind of continual growth, and in terms of pricing as well, and the gates, what they need is for those things to feel of similar value or enough value that you're willing to invest in them and choose them as a destination. You're going to make them one of your events, one of your things you do. Because the days of being, I can just do this every week, it's not happening in this economy.
Nope.
And it's very easy to look at it and go, my dad said to me, we were up at Scotland last week for Scotland Rugby, playing the USA. There were some very annoying Ric Flair fans that did his whole promo as they walked around the ground. I'm very happy they got thumped, to be honest now. But it's half empty in the upper stand, so we've got some large parts of the tier that are empty. And he says, I don't know how this could happen. If I lived up here, I would go to every game. And it's like, you're a retired 66-year-old man, who's had a decent income. Your outlook on what you can afford is different from the rest of the world right now.
Yep.
And there is that part of it. So this is where I don't know how successful they've been in creating Raw and SmackDown as kind of destinations in themselves, even though they've got rid of, the house shows and the smaller shows. And that's what it should do. But it will only do that if people are invested in what they've got. And if they've seen it already, not sure how long they're going to be invested for.
Well, I think the SmackDowns, especially lately, even it does seem to me, even just casually looking, it does seem like the SmackDowns do not have the quality that they once did. And that people even now are commenting on how these shows just feel thrown together. They don't feel like they have any direction. It's not featuring the strongest wrestlers that they have or the best characters that they have, and it's just not what it was. And so if you're looking at spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars, are you going to do it for a SmackDown that you're kind of like, I'm going to see Sheamus versus Rusev again? Like, how many times is that match going to go on, right? Like, I don't know. That's... If you want to, like, as you said, if you want to create this exclusivity and this idea that these events are must watch, then the booking has to back that up. And I don't know that that's happened this year. I think you also seen a lot of people very disappointed with the whole Cena retirement and how that never seemed to go anywhere or anything happen with it. They've managed to pull some tricks out of a hat. WrestlePalooza was definitely benefited by AJ Lee, but she's disappeared,
But that's again, those are the quick part-time wins. But then when you can't deliver that again,
No.
you can't replicate it. So then when you try and do it again, you can't. And then you deliver lesser, but you want more.
Right.
It's like, it doesn't make any sense. And then what you have to look at is, okay, so how do they compensate for what's going to happen here? What this trend is, barring some fucking miracle, which isn't happening. Let's be honest, right? Like, how do you compensate for what's happening here? And the answer is, they're going to Saudi Arabia 3 times in 2026.
Yep.
And that will absolutely be key to their live event revenue. And then you'll start to look at, okay, so what new markets can they go to? How many less shows can they do in the US? Can they take more away? I think it's very interesting that they're running Europe like right around Royal Rumble season, which would traditionally be one of your highest American drawing ticket seasons. That is their key season. So they think they can make more money in Europe because of the scarcity. So that's where Nick Khan is right. The scarcity is key for them. And we've seen that if you look at like AEW this year. They're going to have 3 crowds above 10,000 for TV, right? So Mexico City, Brisbane, Australia, first-time visits, and where I'm sitting right now, Manchester, England will be above 10k, even though they've stuck it straight next to a football game next door, which is a disaster, but there we are. So it's like that scarcity thing will help them in terms of their overall numbers, the numbers that
Yes.
they're presenting to their shareholders. So you're going to see more of that. You're then going to look at, okay, so what else can they cut back? Because when it comes to TV deals now, you're pretty much locked in. And when you look at the revenue that they put out in their third quarter, it's not as big an increase in terms of media rights from last year than you would expect. So, for example, the 9 months ending September 30th, 2024 was in revenue was $709 million in media rights, and this year was 779, which, it sounds a lot, but when you consider, like, they added the ESPN deal.
Yep.
In that last bit there. So that started early, so that should give them a boost. And that Raw went to Netflix in this year. And they had a full year of the SmackDown deal, which came, because they moved from Fox to USA on September 12th last year. So when you consider that, it's not a big an increase as you expect, but there is none of that now. They're locked in.
Yep.
They're locked in for 5 years with ESPN. They're locked in with USA. They're locked in with Netflix. You've incorporated a lot of their international deals that previously would have shown up in that income into the Netflix deal, which kind of makes me look at the Netflix deal and feel like it's weaker pretty much straight away. So where they have room for growth is in their live events and hospitality. And actually live events is the biggest growth area of the last year. They went from 2024, 245 million. That's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then to 344 million in that space of that 9 month period. So it's like that's where they have seen the most growth. So that is a focus. And if they can't do that domestically, and they'll get probably a bit of a boost at the fact that WrestleMania is, in Saudi Arabia the year after. I think they're hoping that's going to really boost the kind of numbers for Las Vegas and what they can charge.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's going to come a point here where things don't even up and you have to make a change. And it's more difficult for them than it is for AEW, right? I think there's like 5 or 6 things that you could absolutely just change for AEW now. And I don't mean just getting rid of Collision, which would actually be the easiest way to change their attendance numbers.
Easiest way to fix their attendance number is to just get rid of Collision. People freaking skip that every time they talk about the topic, but whatever.
Yeah, well, look, it would create more scarcity, wouldn't it, in terms of their TV,
Yep.
as allowing for the fact they've increased their pay-per-view schedule over the last few years. And also, it would ensure that, like, you saw the main people when you actually go and do, which is the thing. And it would mean that you wouldn't be going back to the same towns, like, so often. So there's so many things that, like, that would just... But when you look at WWE, you think, okay, so what could they actually do? Well, they can't have more things for stakes, right? Because they've actually been, what we ask AEW do, they've had... championship matches, they have their main people there. They're not always great about advertising and delivering now. That's something they've decreased in terms of doing. But, okay, so, what else can they deliver? And I think that's a difficulty. And especially when you're chasing site fees and you've got a 6-man team now trying to get site fees out of different cities for TKO.
That's a piece that I think you can't go unrecognized. This was something that got discussed on the earnings call that TKO had, where they talked about what their plans are and their strategies for how they're going to continue to make money. And, Andrew Slimer was very quick to point out that they have now added people to a dedicated site fee team. And he literally said we have a 6-person roster that is dialing for dollars. They are calling every municipality and every tourism board and selling WWE live events. Worthwhile pointing out that the Salt Lake City's SmackDown and the PLE were sold. Salt Lake City spent money to bring WWE there. Like, this seems to go underreported and underdiscussed whenever people are talking about the stuff that goes on with WWE's attendance. In a lot of cases, they are selling these shows. Do you think Salt Lake City was excited about 4,300 people in town Friday for a SmackDown? Or like a PLE that I can't remember the fucking name of the thing, that they couldn't, or it was a Saturday main event that they couldn't even fucking sell out? Like, if you're another municipality looking to spend tax dollars, which don't even get me started on that, because I think, and I say that regardless of which freaking company does it. I don't think that my tax dollars should be given to private corporations, whatever. That's a rant for another day. But do you think Salt Lake City Tourism Board is happy with the result that they got? We saw that there was a situation with the All In Texas that they didn't have as many people as they promised, and they had to give some of the money back. Does WWE have to? Are there clauses with this where they have to give the money back? Yeah, there is.
Well, it's the same with WrestleMania in Dallas a couple of years earlier. Yeah, that's what they have. So, but that's the thing. They aren't based on how much money the gate is.
Right.
It's based on how many people you have, because that that dictates then your subsidy or how much you're paid, because it's how many people are staying in the hotels.
Yep.
Which is what they're aiming for. How many people are spending in local businesses? You know?
Going to restaurants, going to other entertainment while they're there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for. That's why you're trying to do these weekends, and you're trying to get it to, beyond the PLEs. We saw earlier in the year they tried to do it in Tampa as well. They did the Saturday night show, they did the Saturday night's main event.
The Atlanta weekend they did with this Goldberg's thing where they tried to screw over All In by having 3 shows. That was packaged as a whole destination. That didn't work out too great for him either.
No, and it's like... That's the whole idea, is that you want these things to do that, and you're trying to sell them to cities, and it's not just them. Look at AEW's promotion for All Out, and look at I'll have a look at World's End. It's very much about the city now, isn't it? They're trying, and that's them trying to, and All In especially, that's them trying to get into that market, because it's recognised as it's more beneficial to get into that market than maybe it is to sell more tickets. We live in this really strange world where I think we want to look at all these figures and we want to look at them as in the way that we've always done, right? Yep. So we want to say, oh, they sold more tickets here, or they distributed more tickets there, so obviously it's more successful. And but actually, when you get the detail, it's like, okay, so how many did they sell, and how many did they, and that was the AEW thing in 2023. How many did they sell? How many did they give away? What price did they do them at? How much damage does that cause in the long term? That's what we're kind of seeing now. And it's like, but do you remember, actually, here's a good example. Do you remember back in 2022, and it's actually with the Boston show coming up for AEW in your arena, Agganis? You say Agganis?
Agganis, yeah.
Okay, cool. Good stuff. Arena next week. It's kind of apt, because if you remember that section in 2022 when they did their routing down the East Coast, and it was cold venues. They were, big crowd drops from the previous time they were there. Shows felt flat, empty, and they made a ton of money out of that because they routed it that way.
Yep.
And it didn't matter to them that the attendances were way down, because they were like, we made a ton more money. And that's the thing now. So we look at the attendance numbers, and you're thinking about popularity, and they're thinking about profit. And it's not like... It's hard, because I don't think we always agree with it. So take like AEW. AEW's had 2 shows recently, London, Ontario, and Edinburgh in Texas, where they could have sold more tickets. Yep. But and Hollywood, Florida, to be fair as well, free. So they could have sold more tickets, but they restrict how many sections they open to their kind of cost margins, right? So they think, if we open that and more sections, we've got to pay this, we've got to pay that. No, this is what we're going to do. We're going to fill them, and that's going to be it. And from a perception point of view, it hurts them, right? Because people think they're in a, that show's declined slightly, that show's declined slightly. Whereas, you could comp out 100 people, 200 people, and people think, oh, it's so weird how that perception plays. But they look at it as in terms of, we're going to have effective cost management, and we're going to establish value to our brand. And it's the same with WWE now. So their whole thing is, how can we accumulate these site fees? Because that's more valuable to us, than just how many more people do we get through the door. And this is where it's changing, the way, and that's why we have to change the way that we view it. But the key thing for them is, you need to get people through. You need to get here, because you can't generate the site fees without it. You can't generate them site fees on a declining audience. Right.
They have to comp. They have to do whatever they have to do to get people through the door, so that they can continue to show growth and sell other municipalities on the idea that they are. It's a worthwhile investment, that you want to bring TKO and WWE, and however they're going to package these events, or the discussion of packaging these weekends, and however they're going to do it.
But yeah, it's really relies on momentum. Yep. And I think it's interesting that we've started to see some kind of decline with UFC as well. UFC in Perth was struggle. Well, it didn't sell out. So it's like, you had all these things where it was easy, where it's sell out, and now it's a challenge, and they're trying to serve their debt. So yeah, they're going to look at more shows in Saudi Arabia. They're going to look at more global kind of venues, and rather than just US venues, and we're going to see how their US audience particularly reacts to that. And we've already seen some of that when it comes to Royal Rumble and WrestleMania being in Saudi Arabia. It's a cultural challenge in terms of how WWE go to that as well, and I don't think they can be as arrogant as they normally are with that. I don't think they can just brush everything off. I think they will try.
They will. They're not going to suddenly be like, hey, maybe we should try that. I mean, come on. All you have to do is listen to some of that call to be like, oh, the arrogance is right there. Like, these are not humble people.
No, of course not. But it's something they need to be mindful of. Especially when, the over-reliance of John Cena this year has done a lot more damage than I think anyone anticipates. And it's weird, isn't it? Because I think they butchered his 5-0 run for the first half quite considerably. And then they become completely over-reliant on him in the second. So in trying to kind of overcompensate. So, they used him solely as the guy for their launch of the ESPN deal.
Yep.
He's going in 3 months, right? And you're doing this. You're doing a tournament now for his last opponent.
I don't understand. I said this on Twitter and I still stand by it. Like, I don't understand how there aren't more screaming podcasters on this. And I mean, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Like, this is John fucking Cena. Like, whatever you think of him, they've had a year plus to plan this retirement run. Right? Mm-hmm. And the way he's going out is a fucking tournament that they announced a week ago on a PLE, right? They announced it on a Saturday night main event that was on Peacock only, was not advertised. That show was not advertised or pushed the way other shows have been. They announced a couple of matches, and over a week later, we still don't have brackets for who's going to be on this fucking, right? They leaked who's going to potentially win, unless they've radically changed their minds. It's going to be Gunther, right? They told everybody who it was. The participants that they have announced for this so far are Shinsuke Nakamura, Rusev, Sheamus, Damian Priest, LA Knight, The Miz, and Jey Uso. Okay? Those are the contestants for Cena's final fucking match. And it's based around a fucking tournament. There's no storyline. There's no attempt to put anybody over. There's nothing. And all we're going to have is fucking Cena. Like, what is he going to do? Sit in the audience? And we're going to have, like, the fucking a rerun of MJF in Full Gear 2022 or whatever it was, where he sat there with the fucking chip. Or 23, whatever the fuck it was, where he sat there with the fucking chip and watched Jon Moxley have a match. Like, that's what he's gonna do? I mean, I don't understand. Like, could you imagine if this had happened for fucking Sting's retirement? Can you hear, I could hear the screaming from all of the various fucking personalities, quick to jump on what a nightmare this is. But this fucking thing happens and everybody's like, no, it's fine. You might have a couple complaints here and there, but for the most part, nobody is fucking burying this creative. A child could book a better ending for Cena than what they've done here. They have fucked this up from the day it started. From the fucking day he showed up till the end of this. And I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about how it's The Rock's fault. Fuck you. The Rock disappeared and you had, 7-8 months left to do something with it? And nothing has happened. He has literally 3 appearances left. And it's going to be built around a fucking tournament that has people like fucking Rusev in it. Nobody gives a flying fuck about that guy. What the fuck? Like, I don't get this. I don't get how more people aren't outraged at this. I don't get why I'm not seeing little podcasts, the little angry podcaster faces that you get on YouTube. Like, where are those? Right? Where are all those little angry men who are like, Triple H fumbled? Like, yeah, he fucking did fumble. He fumbled so bad he wasn't even backstage at that Saturday night main event. Like, let's talk about that one. But nope. It's fine. This just boggles me, Trish. I just don't get it. And I think that they should be fucking crucified for it. And they're not. And that pisses me off even more.
Because people look at profits versus popularity, don't they? So they go,
or just
it's
even
fine.
Quality.
They're making record profits. Yeah,
just even quality.
They're making record profits, so we can't question a creative. Of course we can question a fucking creative.
They're hot. They're hot. No, they're fucking not hot right now, are they? They can't even get 2,000 people in fucking Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay? Like, what did you get from this? Who did you elevate? Who do you have? Everybody in this fucking tournament's 40 years old. Your main event scene, that fucking WrestleMania poster, okay, is fucking... Let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about the fucking artificial intelligence bullshit WrestleMania poster that came out with a huge fanfare. We've got fucking Brock Lesnar, fucking redacted comments on that, allegedly. We've got CM fucking Punk. We've got Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and then we have Paul Heyman and Triple H. Okay? Yep. Not a single one of these motherfuckers is under 40. And most of them are fucking 45 and over. And you want to say, and Triple H is the focus of this. He's the one standing up. They're playing around with poker chips. Nobody's got a card in their hand because God forbid the AI actually include like a fucking card because they're playing poker, whatever. Just, this is your main event scene. And there's nobody coming. Okay? You don't have anybody in fucking NXT. You've beaten the shit out of anybody down there. All of your mid-carders keep getting the shit beat out of them. Anybody you've gotten from AEW has looked like absolute... Did you see Ray Phoenix and fucking Tala Tonga? Did you see that fucking clip? Beat the shit out of him in, 2 minutes? Julia lost to fucking Chelsea Green in a minute and a half on Friday night. Lost her title, too. What? Like, who's coming to save you? There's no big free agents on the market anytime soon. We're not seeing anybody. So what do you have? You have a bunch of old... Somebody was like, Drew McIntyre's getting written off. Well, who's Cody going to face now? There's 3 guys on SmackDown. He's going to have to go back to Lesnar because there's nothing. And yet all people want to talk about is how WWE is doing great. They're not cold. They're doing great. Dudes, open up your fucking eyeballs.
Look, all the things they were doing well, all the things that got them here, they abandoned them all. And they did the same mistakes that we've seen a million times over. They stopped pushing the people coming up. They stopped elevating people coming through who got popular and paying things off. And now they are where they are. And they have that static top. And you have a world title win that no one gives a fuck about because they were watching Game 7 of the World Series.
We had all of the excitement, and I would say excitement. There was excitement for the people in WWE who were like, oh, AAA, this is going to be really cool. That's turned into fucking nothing, right? That's nothing. It's all of these people they had that were young, that they were like, wow, this is cool. Like, they had all these, nothing. They've squandered so much that not just fucking Cena's retirement.
Did you see the picture, the one with Punk and Cody and Ricky Starks and Jay Cargill? Did you see that picture?
I did see that photo. I didn't think it was. It's one of those things where I was like, this isn't even worthy of me tweeting about this. It's so stupid. It's like, I think you put it best, Trish. You were like, I don't think this is going to age well.
I think it's a big fucking mistake, right? Because they're like, look at us. And the idea is like, oh, Tony fumbled and all this shit. And it's like, yeah, look at you, CM Punk, you win your belt after a 2-year chase on the lowest watched show in WWE Saturday Night main event history.
He didn't even beat the guy he's been feuding with. He fucking beat main event Jey Uso.
Yeah,
he's been fighting with Seth Rollins for 2 years. 2 years! Yep. And he had to have a babyface versus babyface match with Jey fucking Uso.
Yeah, relegated to Peacock on the only night the world wasn't watching because they were watching the World Series.
Botch fest.
Yeah, and, after your first run lasted all of 3 minutes, because everyone was cheering Seth Rollins on the way out, and your babyface title went in front of 8,219. Less than a SmackDown the year before. Booker couldn't even bother to be there.
On a fucking Saturday night main event that was on Peacock only after it got fucking taken off of NBC with no promos, no advertising, no fucking nothing.
And hey, you're hitting the top of the company just as it's going into climb, which shows the second time that's happened.
Never seen that before.
No, seems to be something. Or, you can look at, hey, Jay Cargill, who's now reliving your AEW gimmick because you can't do anything else, and they figured that out. And you also won your title on Saturday night's main event because you weren't up to scratch to do it at WrestleMania, and they had to kind of downcycle you, and now they're doing this. Or maybe, hey, let's look at Cody Rhodes. And, this one should be studied, what they've done to Cody Rhodes this year.
It's awful.
Right? Because you've got a guy that, you got everything right with the first time round.
Absolutely.
Absolutely everything right the first time round, and it really kind of lifted your business. So what do you do this year? Oh, you begin with him sat in the crowd at Netflix, like some sort of extra, playing second fiddle to every single fucking part-timer. And then you have him lose to John Cena in WrestleMania, getting booed out of the building, looking like a total fucking mug.
Chump.
While he waited an hour for Travis Scott to hit the ring. Just think about that one. And then when you actually get back to the title, but you have Cena turn babyface on 2 days before on SmackDown. So then the match becomes about John Cena, which is a very John Cena-like trick, actually. But you have him do that. So then the match isn't about you winning. There's no triumph in it. Oh, and then you don't even get to celebrate because then it's about Cena and then it's about Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Oh, and then you know what? You're going to go to film. Okay, you're going to come back. Your first POA back is going to be WrestlePalooza, the debut on ESPN. Are you going to be promoted as a star? No. What's the headline match? Oh, you're going to go on last, but the headline match and the one that they're advertising and that they've got the ESPN host talking about is Brock Lesnar and John Cena.
Yep.
And hey, you know what you're going to do, right? So you're going to have another match with Drew McIntyre, have nothing underneath, and then, yeah, it's a fucking lame lineup because the cupboards are bare. But hey, who's all the focus around? Oh, it's going to be... it's at this tournament. It's much harder to get a fucking shot at John Cena in his last retirement match than it is to get a fucking shot at Cody Rhodes' title.
Yep.
Great, yeah. Let's look at Cody Rhodes. That's going really well this time. We're doing great here. And hey, look at Ricky Starks, developmental champion at the age of fucking 35. Like.
35 years old, and the guy's in fucking NXT, and he's trying to flex like this is some kind of bit. Like, come on.
Yeah, like, oh, I thought you were going out to the Vision in the summer. Is that going to be a thing? Maybe you'll be, Logan Paul take your spot. What's the fucking talk here? Yeah, let's, yeah, you can be NXT champion in the shadow of a TNA NXT story. And with numbers, hey, let's find you a number to hang your hat on. Oh, look, cupboards are bare there too. Yeah, 35 years old. Fucking smirking developmental champion, given everything he could ever have wanted in AEW, and there you are. So yeah, look at them. Like that picture, fucking sums everything up quite nicely. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be smirking too much, and yeah, not going to age well. Sorry guys, but that was daft. They have so many similarities to 2001, 2002 WWF,
yes.
WWE, that it's incredible. And then you get things like, right, I have to read this quote because this quote has to be heard to be believed. So Nick Khan did an interview for the Financial Times, and he summed up a lot of the different things, and it was interesting to hear him talk about how the share price has increased from $1 to $2 and whatever a share increase or whatever it is on the 2 days after they'd taken a little bit of a pounding in the stock market after their TKO results release. But he says, he's asked like who is the audience for WWE now, and oh my god, it's just bad. Right. And he says, who is the audience now? Families, teenage boys drawn to the physical side like UFC fans? He's asked, who is the audience now? Families, teenage boys drawn to the physical side like UFC fans, or the 40% female segment? How do the demographics break down, and who will each part of the sport appeal to? And he says WWE has a strong following amongst African American and Latino audiences in the US. Our aim is to reflect that in our programming, not through race, but through relatable personalities. John Cena, for example, resonates across races and genders because of who he is.
He's leaving!
Like, what are you doing? One, you've just purchased AAA, and so you're like, hey, yeah, let's talk about AAA. Another thing that we can't get a TV deal for currently. There's still an outstanding thing. Is they getting a TV deal? Is NXT getting a TV deal next year? What's going on with TNA? That's all gone very quiet. They've had their month off. They go back to Full Sail. They've not moved platforms. Half their talent are out of contract. What's going on here? We're not going to talk about it. But it's like, no, it's all about John Cena. Can you understand how you're fucking this up still? So you fucked up his run and you fucked up everyone else because of his run. It's like a double whammy. It's incredibly clever. And yeah, they'll go more times to Saudi. They'll start looking at operational costs. They're going to try and, make kind of wages are going to be a thing. The wrestler pay, and that's why they've been so kind of adamant of trying to do damage to AEW is that they are upholding in a way
they don't want to have
being paid currently.
They don't want to have to compete for talent by paying the money, and
no,
it's they want to continue to try and buy up promotions like AAA. I don't know. I don't get what the fuck they're doing. No. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and you have an opportunity like that to discuss. Like the guy set him up, completely set him up. Who is your audience now? Oh, well, people really love John Cena. Like that's all you got? The dude is fucking retiring. He's gone. Who's a person that's on the roster full time that you could point to and say, hey, we've got this person who he really resonates or she really resonates with audiences. You could have talked about Rhea Ripley. You could have talked about any number of fans that bring in people like the 40% of the women or the younger teenage boys or non-traditional wrestling fans. No, John Cena, white guy, like old white guy, retiring white guy. These guys are fucking crazy. I swear to God.
The other thing that was really interesting about their call, though, was also how they talked about ESPN.
Yes, we got to touch on this because this shit was unbelievable. I strongly recommend if you can find the clip to go listen to it because the way they talk about ESPN in this is unbelievably different to the way that like people are presenting this relationship. And I'm going to hit this really fast, right? So the question is about WWE and ESPN's partnership, and it got answered by Nick Khan and Mark Shapiro. So Nick Khan at first said, Khan says he's pleased with the coverage that WrestlePalooza had on ESPN. If you noticed any of the promotion going into our first event with them, WrestlePalooza, which is a new event for us, which we're really pleased with, you saw wall-to-wall coverage on all ESPN platforms. So much so that on College Game Day, the morning of WrestlePalooza, you had the entire panel, Pat McAfee, Coach Saban, Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard, Reese Davis, all predicting the winner of Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. It was phenomenal. It's going to take time for ESPN to grow that platform the way they want it to grow. We're patient. We'll continue to put on our product the way that we think only we can do. And then Shapiro adds, ESPN can be one of the best marketing partners in the media space when they strategize and get behind something. And they talk about how WrestlePalooza was an incredible launch. And then they talk about how this bottom bit about ESPN and like the, who's getting it and can they pay for it and all this other stuff. And it's their, meaning ESPN, and it's their goal to redo all their transmission deals and get these consents so that they have more people watching. And we are anxious to see that happen. Okay. So like, does this sound like people who are blown away by the strength of the reach that ESPN's app has? It doesn't come across that way to me. It sounds like they're trying to be patient and wait for like what's going to eventually become a better service rather than what they had right now.
I thought it was interesting that they talked about how ESPN can be one of the best marketing partners and not have been so far.
So I was going to say, especially since we had so many people talking about how little promotion there was of WWE on that ESPN app and on ESPN sports shows and other shows leading up to WrestlePalooza. They had a John Cena advertisement for the app that didn't include anything about WWE. Like, that's the part where it's like, oh, they can be a partner? Were they just not for you here?
And yeah, you have to question why. I know they have college football, but you have to question why it wasn't shown as ESPN on, even like the first hour as part of the launch. Yep. It was shoved away on a DLC, and it looks like they had 100,000 to 125,000 new subscribers added to the platform that weekend, which would be less than the buy rate for AEW's all-out pay-per-view estimate. And that's not what they're looking for. But I find it interesting that WWE is like, we're patient, we're this, we're that. But aren't you supposed to be bringing people to this service? Aren't you supposed to be the driver of bringing people that wouldn't normally view this service? Isn't that why they've paid you this money? And I think there are things that he's right on in terms of, the way their outlook is right, in terms of these sort of events are now going to potentially be worth more than kind of weekly television. And it can be something that people may go in to view it for. So, Netflix, it's funny, isn't it, that after the WWE deal, when it came to the UFC deal, they weren't interested in every week of content. They wanted the big shows.
They wanted only the pay-per-views and only the big events. They did not want their weekly shows.
No, and that's where, their model is starting to be more representative of how Amazon have traditionally done their business. So their idea is not to have everything, but we have something, it's part of an offering, right? And Netflix have traditionally been, we want everything. We want this whole ownership, this consume all of it. And now it's moving away from that. And you're seeing more of that when it comes to UFC, especially when obviously that sort of deal is being made with Paramount now and not with Netflix. And they're going into, we want these big events, but we don't want every event. So if you have that movement, then the PLEs become more important. And then maybe that price that they paid could be justified. But it's not going to be justified if this service remains on the subscription base that it is. And, it's one of those things. So everyone talk about the new TV system, the new TV rating system, Nielsen Big Panel Plus data, right? And the key thing is that if anyone tells you they know exactly how everything fucking works on it, and they tell you exactly how every company has responded, and that there's no issues with it, and this is how it is now, and they don't know shit.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the answer to every question, every query that's been brought up. In fact, someone like Brandon Thurston tried to ask and ended up losing quarter hours being able to be published because they don't particularly like anyone looking at their system and how it works and all those sorts of things. And there are big questions. There are big questions with huge anomalies in terms of, the way the 18 to 34 is recorded. Is there an issue in terms of things being turned on and off?
Yep.
Is there issues just in general with now that, you take away, was kind of some demographics being over-indexed previously? Are there now demographics being under-indexed under this? We don't know. And we don't know when it's going to be if it would change. We don't know if it will be sorted. It could come turn new at a turn of the year and they could have adapted it and we could see something different. We don't know. Nobody knows. And it's very naive to think that we all do. What we do know at current is under the current system is wrestling is taking a bit of a hit. SmackDown the most, but then, Dynamite's taking a hit, NXT's taking a hit. And the key thing for that is that everyone looks at it and thinks, oh my God, it'll kill AEW. They were paid all this money, right?
They're doomed. And they're doomed.
They're doomed, right? Okay. So, but it ignores the fact that AEW's latest deal was a diversification deal. So it wasn't just, this is a show on TBS and this is a show on TNT. And they're going to be hurt by ad rates being lower. And that's a problem just in general. That if, these numbers are taken as kind of, what's the word? They're taken as, gospel, thank you. Right. Appreciate it.
I got you, girl.
There we go. If they're taking as gospel, then it will hurt their ad rates. But that's not the only kind of thing that they sell to these media companies now.
Yep.
When you've got a deal with ESPN for $325 million for 10 PLEs, and you've got a deal with USA for SmackDown for $287 million a year, they're paying more for these PLEs than they are for the TV rights for a 52-week a year program now of 2 hours or 3 hours, depending. So it's like that's where the thing has changed, and that's when I look at AEW and you think, okay, that PLE conversion and the ability to get people to sign up to Max 4 and purchase PLEs through them is actually more important potentially than the long-term outlook of what they do on TBS and TNT.
Yep.
And maybe that doesn't change overnight, but actually that changed to a longer pay-per-view schedule. As much as from a live perspective, it can damage your TV numbers, and you have to be careful not to be like an NXT during like the late 2010s. You have the ability to sell that product separately and then have, evidence of your conversion rates and that sort of thing. And it helps, I think, as well that they've been on Amazon, and Amazon have seen that as well. I know it didn't go too great for WrestleDream, but it's like in terms of the way that production went on Amazon, but they can see the numbers, right? So they can see the potential in that conversion rate. And that's really important. And that's where I think extending their pay-per-view calendar might end up being one of their kind of genius plus points that we didn't really think at the time. And sometimes in terms of because of what it does to TV, we find it quite disruptive.
Yeah.
But that's where the difference is now. And then you have something like HBO Max and streaming and that conversion rate. We're in a transitional period, and I think that's why it's so difficult to kind of come up with the conclusions or to think about these things, because again, it's like the attendance thing. Like, we want to see it just in one way, the way we've always seen it, and now you can't, right? Because you're looking at a difference between popularity and profit, and that's really extended over the last few years because of media rights, and that's what we're doing here now as well. So it's like it's much more difficult to just make a conclusion, and I think people find that difficult then because they want it to be black and white.
Yes. There was an ease of understanding it that people had sort of onboarded, and now that's gone, and they can't evaluate based the way they used to. And so you end up with crazy statements like, well, this is bad for AEW, but it's not bad for WWE. Like, it's fucking bad for both of them.
It's bad for wrestling.
It's bad for wrestling. Like, I don't see how you can look at one and say, Data Plus Panel is bad for AEW, but it's not bad for WWE. It's fucking bad for both of them. It's bad for wrestling in general. They don't look good. So, like, do I think that WBD has looked at these numbers and said, "Oh my God, we're fucking canceling this deal next month"?
No, of course not.
Of course not. Like, give me a break. Like, again, that you assume that people are privy to a lot of knowledge that like we don't have, and the networks make their decisions based on that. Also, some of these people are just dumb. I'm thinking of Dave. I don't want to compliment David Zaslav.
No, but this is the thing, right? So, this is where Nick Khan was right. You diversify your offering.
Yes.
And you split it as much into across the board. So you have things on streaming, you have things on linear, you try and have things on cable, you have things on other platforms. And that is the right thing to do right now. And that's what AEW did well with getting that deal, was having all those lines, because this is where we're going right now. We are in a transitional period. That streaming is led by 18 to 34s, but is now seeing huge growth. I think over 60s in the UK is the biggest growth area for streaming occurring, and you can see that. Like, I was surprised this week. I was walking through my station and I saw the poster for the Celebrity Traitors final in the UK, and it didn't say live on BBC One, which is our main linear station. It said live on iPlayer, the streaming platform, because the whole advertisement was like aimed at younger people, and that's where they're watching. That's where they're consuming as much now here in the UK on the biggest show in the UK this year. And to see that, it's only a little thing, but it shows you where that transition is going, and that people are like, okay, yeah, no. And I thought about it afterwards. I thought, hang on a minute, I've watched everyone bar one on iPlayer, so it's right? Like, because it's like, and even when I watch it live, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just put it on iPlayer. So it's like, we're changing our habits, and TV is kind of catching up with that. And the best way to secure yourself and safeguard yourself is provide all those different options. So actually, that Max deal now, I think in time we'll look at that with potentially more value than we do in terms of them being on TBS. And it's the same with what WWE have done in the past as well. But yeah, there'll be people in TV, I'm sure, who will be absolutely thrilled if wrestling came out looking awful, because, it's often seen as like, it's not really a sport, it's not really entertainment, it's not high value, people watch it, aren't high value consumers, that sort of thing. But that's where it's not killing any of these companies, behave yourselves. It's like, and there are things to be sorted out. There are things to be acknowledged. There's issues with some of the NFL numbers for Monday Night Football. You think that's going to stand up? That's going to continue to be allowed? Like, the NFL are much more powerful than anybody else. So it's like, we wait and see on this one, and we see what happens. If the numbers stay the same, right? Is there things that AEW could do? Absolutely.
Yes.
You can balance out and you say, actually, we can put more stakes on our TV shows again. Because
that are not just about fucking belts. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, I'm not even getting into that argument because I'm not interested, and I think it's fucking stupid. And look, if he wants to add another belt, he'll have another belt. It doesn't change anything.
Right.
Because they're not real stakes, right? You have the things that matter and you have the things that don't. So it's like, you make the things that matter, and people will come and watch it. If you don't, you don't. Will they look at it in terms of safeguarding against the Big Bang Theory, because you don't really want to be lower than a rerun programming, and think, okay, how do we load to carry much of their kind of lead in and load up with people that are popular in female 35 to 49? Are we more focused on 35 to 49 because it's registering more of those viewers in general, across this TV system? So, do they look at potentially, is there more greater, everyone's going to hate me for this one, but is there more greater value in them having longer run programming on a Wednesday night? 2-3 hours, but that's a reality, than anything else. Does that provide them more value to a station? So there's loads of different things that they're all kind of look for in that regard. And it'll be the same for WWE as well. But we don't know yet. So it's like, but I think there's questions of, what's the immediate damage it could have done? Has it hurt TNA from being able to get a deal right now? I mean, that would be one of the questions I'd ask.
That was imminent a couple months ago, and seems like it's disappeared off the table completely at this point. There's, Carlos is not out there doing interviews talking about it.
Where's my hat man? Get my hat man back. Where is he?
Where did he go? All that, I cannot believe that they managed to squander all of that momentum that they had, has sort of just dissipated. It's just gone. It's sort of boggles my mind.
It's funny with TNA because, they did everything that you'd expect them to do. So the rebranding obviously worked quite well.
Yep.
Back to the TNA rebranding. And then, they had some people that got hot themselves that were over. And you thought, okay, they can elevate them there. They're now in a position where a lot of people are out of contract, especially out there. You've got this deal with WWE that they can buy you, potentially, if the company's put up for sale. And I look at it and I just think, I don't know, like, how many more times can they survive? We'll see. But they're obviously, the idea of them being head-to-head on CW in immediacy in this winter is not happening right now. So that's kind of an interesting thing in itself. Shall we move on to New Japan? Because this has been the other big source of conversation for last week. And
conversation is a gentle way of putting it, Trish.
I just want to piss everybody off, I think. I'm just going to piss everyone off, so we might as well get on with it.
Let's go crazy with it.
So, Hiroshi Tanahashi will face, in his last match at the Tokyo Dome on January 4th, 2026, Kazuchika Okada.
Da-da-da-da!
Yeah. And, look, okay. So, there has only really been 4 options spoken about, and Tanahashi has actually said this on something, an appearance he did with shareholders in Japan. So there's been 4 options all year, right? Okada, Nakamura, Naito, Omega. That's your list. And it's not a secret, contrary to some journalists' public beliefs. It's not a secret. Okay?
Wait, this isn't a Trish and Sarah exclusive?
No!
Damn it.
Yeah, damn it.
I wanted $6.
Is it 6 now? I don't even know how much
it's 6 now.
Oh, $6.49. I can't keep up with all this shit. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, it's not a secret. They're the 4 names. They've been the 4 names all year at varying times this year. You've heard one more name or another, or things have swayed one way or another. Okay. And then last week, Gato does a promo in his backstage comments with Tanahashi, and he says, in Anjo next week, we'll kind of know what the game is. And as soon as that happened, I thought it was very clear that it was Okada. Yes. Whatever's happened in the past, it's Okada. Like, it was the setup. And sometimes I always say that thing where you trust your eyes and ears before I trust, everything else. And even though that's difficult in New Japan this year.
At the time.
Yeah, and it's very difficult at New Japan sometimes to do that these days.
Yes.
But it's not Okada. And lo and behold, he comes out, Rainmaker music with Gato, and they do the stare down, huge pop, and they set up the match, and they put their graphic first out, and they're like 10 years since the last time at the Tokyo Dome, which I thought was good, because it was like the attention to detail we've missed in terms of promotion this year, since probably last year's Wrestle Kingdom, actually. And I was like, okay, they've made their decision, whatever is gone is gone, and at the end of the day, Okada is one of Tanahashi's greatest creations. It's a guy that he got over when he recognized that even though, you can look at him and think over that period of time from the mid-2000s into the mid-2010s, he was mainly responsible for turning their business around, but he recognized that for him to move forward, that you needed other people around him. That's the difference for me between John Cena and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Tanahashi realized, I need an Okada, I need an Omega, I need a Naito, I need all these people, and that's and Ibushi. They're everything like that. They're going to drive everything forward. It can't just be about me. Whereas I think someone like Cena was very much like, I decide who does this, who's in this position, who's not. Like, Vince McMahon or whatever. But Cena was very apt at being able to cut people's legs off when he wished to, because he was the guy. Right?
Yes.
And that's the difference between, for me, being the guy and the ace. And that's where Hiroshi Tanahashi is the ace. So, okay, you've done all that. It's all presented. So, Sarah, why is not everybody happy?
Okay. So, and I'm saying all of this, Trish, that I... I'm not a follower of New Japan to the degree that many other people are. But I'm not, So it appears that somehow at some point there became a belief amongst a number of New Japan fans that Shinsuke Nakamura was going to be Tanahashi's opponent. That this was what Tanahashi wants. He wants to face Nakamura. That is his choice. He would like to face Nakamura. He wants that to happen. WWE is great and fine with it. They have no problems with it. It's not an issue for them at all. And unfortunately, the only person who didn't want this to happen was Tony Khan. And Tony Khan refused to allow this to happen. And he put his foot down and insisted that it not be Shinsuke Nakamura and said, here, you can have Okada. And Okada doesn't want to do it. He's miserable. Tanahashi hates this. He's miserable. But they have to do it because Tony Khan, this is unclear to me. Something, money maybe, I don't know. But this seems to be the gist of it. And from my perspective on the outside, I found this sort of amusing. There was a report that Tanahashi was prepared to go to a press conference to discuss this, and that got scuttled at the absolute last second. But that seems to be negated by the whole thing of Okada being teased by Geto last weekend. Have I summarized this correctly?
Okay. Right. So, what I thought I wanted to do was kind of run through the four guys. And I'm right, so I really only the three. I'm not really going to talk much about Omega.
I think he was a wild card.
Yeah, he was a potential option, but he was never one that we seriously heard this is really going to happen, right? So, Okada. Here's the things that I think is driven kind of some of the feeling around Okada. And so when he first came out, Anjo, yesterday, he was in his New Japan presentation, right?
Yes.
And I think for me that was quite relieving because I find him the least interesting of the four options. I think Kenny's such a wild card and he can play such interesting characters in Japan that I'm always interested to see that, right? Naito had the story and tells you come back, prodigal son for the company and everything else that's gone on with him and Tanahashi and some of their history. And I thought, okay, that would be quite interesting. And then Nakamura, it's that boy band thing, right? It's that thing of he's been away for, 10 years.
He's the one who hasn't been around. He's been gone the longest.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yes.
And the idea of hearing that subconscious theme and him being like the king and not whatever the fuck swamp man he is in WWE, I thought, that's actually quite interesting to me.
Yeah.
In terms of, I would like to see Nakamura in that presentation and hope that he could do something for that night. And it's like one, and the fact that the Musketeers, these guys went all the way back. Him, Shibata, and Tanahashi. And Tanahashi's talked a lot about going full circle and that sort of thing, and that talk kind of really got high up in September. And then you had, and then it was kind of like, it felt like, so it's kind of funny because with Okada, if he was going to do his Japanese presentation, I think I'd be much more receptive to it. When he said, today he's in his press conference and he's like, I'm going to do my AEW presentation, I did go, oh, for fuck's sake. And that's part of it, right? Because this is something else. So does that mean, and this is where I'm twofold. So I'm not like, I'm not going to go nuts over it. We'll see what happens before I say anything.
Yeah.
And hey, I could absolutely go nuts on January 4th about a few things, but we'll see because we don't know yet.
Yes,
and you have to watch these things develop. Okay? So he's going to come in with his AEW presentation that most people in Japan have never seen because people in Japan don't watch AEW. Okay? No. 5,000 people ordered the first Forbidden Door. These Forbidden Door shows are at fucking 10 a.m. on a Monday morning during work time in Japan.
Right.
And this year, New Japan social media just decided Forbidden Door didn't exist, so that was even funnier. But it's completely the world account was tough, but the actual accounts in Japanese, they just eradicated it. So it's but AEW is not a watch promotion, and I think Dynasty should have told some people that, and it still didn't. So it's that presentation feels so foreign there. And it's that thing of feeling that, and this is where I think a lot of people are coming from, is they feel that they don't want New Japan to be a surrogate of AEW. They don't want to see it as, they want to see it as a partner at most, but they don't want to see it as secondary to it or a feeder, right? So then you take that presentation and not his New Japan presentation, you put it in there, and automatically people are going to resent that. And it's no different to, you think about the CML anniversary show, and I'm sorry because I'm going to go Orange Cassidy a little bit here.
No, that's fair. The criticism is deserved. I can't defend it. It's absolutely deserved criticism.
So if you look at what happened last year at that show, so you did the Jericho thing. He's in his full AEW, WWE style presentation, right? Yep. Mystico gets booed. They do it in the main event over the mask match. It was a wrong decision, and then they ended it with an AEW angle for TV.
Yep.
Right? So the biggest show of CML's LL's year last year, the finish to it was about an angle for a regular episode of AEW television. That is the sort of shit that you must cut out. You cannot do that, right? You cannot make it all about another company. Because the idea is that when you are a partner and and these partnerships, you're going to have one more powerful partner than the other, but you have to give the idea that they're equals, or in their own backyard, that is the big company.
Yes.
So with New Japan, it's a lot of the fans, I always say wrestling's not it's not like picking your football team, but in Japan it kind of is. You have your team, you have your promotion, you've just watched that promotion and you believe that promotion is the best in the world. And if you take that image away and you say, actually, it's this promotion that you don't watch, that's the sort of thing that like it's disruptive to that relationship and how they think about either company. So this year with CMLL, you know, you've seen a lot of corrections for that from AEW, right? So you had them go in for Grand Slam, and you had the Page promo leading off saying, you know, well, you know, we're grateful to be in your house, and we're grateful to work together, and we're going to present you as kind of equals. And then you have the Mystico presentation and that sort of thing. And then MJF goes and he changes up his character to that marketplace, and they do the semi-main event, and he puts him over clean, and it's like, that's how you do that, right? So it doesn't matter that AEW are a bigger company financially than CMLL.
Right.
Because you're not presenting like that. And the only time this year where they've kind of got away with that was when they did the Mascara Dorada Bandido match on the Tuesday before. And he said, you know, how would you feel if he signed for AEW and the fans booed? And it's like, yeah, we like them, we'll accept them, but they're not our company. And this is where you have to be really careful. So when you bring that presentation into New Japan, it's like that reflects on people's fears, because they don't want that to be the dominant thing. And then the idea is, obviously they think, you know, so if Okada is losing in that presentation, then fine. I don't think anybody would have an issue, right? They'd be like, oh, he's playing the heel, okay, we're going to see the greatest babyface of all time overcome him. And it's like, right, fine. But traditionally, retirement matches have the heel win, right? So then it's a different thing. And that's just playing on to the other fears, because the biggest fear that you're seeing from people as well is that this is not just, you know, because Okada left, and he left after Tanahashi became president, and did he promise that he would stay if Tanahashi became president, even though he was still making deals with like Barry Bloom? You know, has that delayed everything for a year? Was it supposed to be Wrestle Dynasty last year? Was supposed to be Tanahashi's retirement? Funny enough, he's done comments this year where he said, you know, the company told me it was going to be 1 year and now it's 2. And he says, you know, I was trying to say goodbye for that long. But then if the whole end of that show becomes about the AEW angle between Takeshita and Okada, that's what people are fearful the most. They do not want New Japan to be secondary. So they don't want that Okada presentation of the AEW character. They want the New Japan presentation, because that's New Japan, and this is a New Japan match. And I think that's where you have to be careful. And I think that's where Kenny Omega has got it so right when he goes back to Japan. He's Kenny Omega. And even like John Moxley, when he goes to Japan, he's John Moxley. He's not AEW's John Moxley. And that builds on what's happened with Takeshita this year as well, where they fucking no idea how to present him, absolutely fucking whatsoever. And then it's like, oh, he's AEW's Takeshita, and then it's like, oh, and New Japan were ungrateful to him when he wanted to be here, so we're going to try and turn the company heel, and it's like, it doesn't work, but we want to keep him face. Like, you can't make a fucking decision. He's not the only one where they can't make a fucking character decision in New Japan right now. But it's like that presentation of these AEW people are, in that presentation, more important than they are in New Japan, and that's what gets people's backs up for me.
I think my question to you is, so I read the quotes from Okada and in that press conference today, and it came across to me, the thing I said after reading it, I was like, oh, that fucking troll. Like, it didn't, I don't know, like, everything you're talking about is 100% correct. And I can completely understand why, like, as you said, that you wouldn't want to see somebody in a situation where they're going to, you know, the AEW piece of it is more important than the New Japan piece of it. That's completely makes tons of sense, is absolutely correct. And I can see why so many New Japan fans would be terrified of that, given, you know, all the stuff that happened with Moxley, the whole weirdness around Takeshita, like a lot of the weird shit that's happened in the last couple of years. Wrestle Dynasty, all that stuff. I guess I'm just sort of, you know, it just seems curious to me, because I guess from my perspective, it feels like there are a lot of things that AEW, ways in which AEW has not been the best partner to New Japan. And I think you could point at a bunch of them and say, you know, they could be doing a better job with this, they could be doing a better job. But it also feels like there's a lot of problems in New Japan that have nothing to do with AEW. And I'm kind of curious as to how much of this, like, sometimes I wonder if the fan sentiment is like, I can go be mad at AEW and I don't have to deal with the fact that my promotion is just a shit show right now.
I think it's a mixture of both. So I do think that anyone that believes Tony Khan has had no point to play in this is being incredibly naive.
Yes.
And of course he is, because this is a Cold War, right? This is a Cold War. They're battling kind of WWE on every front, and that means that there's casualties and there's things that become difficult. And when you have these kind of partnerships and that sort of thing. And I would say as well is that, like, would CML have some part to play in this, considering that WWE are on their doorstep now?
Yep.
You know, that's another key partner and a longer partner to New Japan than AEW has been.
Right.
So you look at it that way. And yeah, but the idea that you can just say, oh, it's all Tony Khan, or it's all this and it's all that. You can't do that. And with Nakamura, you know, like, I thought it was very interesting. So what you can't say is they didn't tease it, because they absolutely
did tease it. They absolutely teased it.
So they teased it with the Nakamura thing, the promo thing at the house show in Ryogoku.
Yep.
And also they did some stuff in Tokyo Sports and some stuff on Twitter and all the stuff that they normally use when they're promoting something or teasing it. And, you know, look, Nakamura has been something discussed in terms of going to the WWE office about it since January. I remember hearing about it in January. I have the notes still from January. It's not something that, like, just came out of the blue. It was definitely something that was under consideration. And I don't think it was a pipe dream or something that was, in terms of it had to be, you know, he had to be out of WWE for it to happen. No, they were looking at and there's obviously been negotiations. Like, I don't believe for an absolute lie for me that around that Ryogoku show there wasn't negotiations, because that's when it flared up out of nowhere.
Right.
And then Nakamura started walking some back, and you thought, oh, okay, maybe some of that. And it, you know, there are a lot of people that believe that he was the first choice and that Okada was the backup. And it's very well possible that that could have been the case. You know, we don't know what WWE asked. We don't know what they wanted. We don't know how disruptive that would have been to CMLL or to AEW or to any other relationship. And I think this year it's harder to kind of, you know, I think it's easier actually for people to say, oh, they could just do this with WWE, because there's less kind of evidence of AEW helping them from a financial perspective than there has been in previous years. So people will look at the quarter figures for Bushi Road, you know, for this past year and go, okay, so where's this evidence that there's Forbidden Door money in there? And I think it's kind of difficult for the final quarter of the year, which is traditionally our quarter 2 in the West, because you had the success of All-Star Grand Queendom for Stardom. You also had Naito's kind of mini run before he left, which was incredibly financially successful for him. So it's harder to see that, but there's not enough where you can deduce that, you know, even Forbidden Door has a huge impact. But it's like, so they say, okay, so what's the financial help there? Plus the drain of all this talent that have gone to, you know, AEW from New Japan. And so it's very easy in a way to kind of go, oh, actually, it should be fine, you know, like, what damage would it do if they had a relationship with WWE? But these politics are not that simple, and I think it's this oversimplification thing of people wanting to put things in boxes in black and white is kind of difficult. And you want to fight your tribal side, you want to fight for you believe in, and whether that's whether you sit on one side of the Cold War in terms of, you know, a WWE fan or an AEW fan, or whether you are kind of like sitting in New Japan side, and you kind of are basing everything around that. And it's like that. So
I just think my question for you is, one of the things that I have found sort of fascinating about the discussion around Nakamura and, like, you know, is the idea that it would be super easy and there would be no downside to New Japan for it. And I just, as someone who's watched WWE, you know, do everything they can to fuck over other promotions, it's hard for me to envision that they'd just be like, yeah, absolutely, take Nakamura, no problem. We don't need anything. We don't want anything. Like, that's kind of the part where I'm sort of, I feel like there's a naivete there, or like I don't know. Like, I think that AEW becoming the popular promotion that has become has had a huge side effect on independent promotions, on international promotions. I'm not going to sit here and talk about it. I think that's absolutely something we've discussed before, and I think it's an unintentional side effect of that. But the idea that AEW is more damaging to, you know, potentially more damaging to your company than a relationship with WWE is just insane to me. Like, I can't envision anybody thinking that after looking at these companies. And I could see where you'd say, well, we don't want to have any relationship with anybody. We're just going to do isolationism. Fine. But, like, no, we're going to like TNA and AAA. Like, how's that going for them? I don't know. I'm sort of babbling here, but I hope you get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
No, I get you. I think it's one of those things where the idea of, like, it's like forbidden fruit in some ways of having Nakamura.
Oh, that part I get, right? Like, this is a guy who you haven't had him for how many years, right?
Yep, definitely.
I get it.
Yeah. But then again, look, it's one of those things, right? So from WWE's perspective, it's a missed opportunity, huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So you probably paid yourself out of it a little bit with what you did with taking Jeff Cobb, you know, and destroying the Bills with Dontaku. Yeah, you destroyed the build to Dantaku. You took Jeff Cobb early. You didn't actually use him for a few weeks, so it was absolutely completely pointless. And the whole idea was to be as disruptive as possible. So when you do things like that, the trust part of that mechanism isn't going to be as strong as it maybe perhaps would have been. But the idea of WWE being able to gain influence and a relationship with New Japan, especially after the last few months where, there's been, you can see that in terms of the New Japan AEW relationship, we've not seen as much strength as we have in the past.
Agreed.
The Tony Khan stuff around Evil and the G1 was a fucking embarrassment, to be honest.
Yes.
Is especially considering how Evil's seen by Tanahashi. It's like that was incredibly disrespectful. Running that 2-5-4 was just, I can't even begin. But it's like, so there was an opportunity there, and they've not taken it. For whatever reason, they've not taken it. And it could be, these things are complicated. It could be to do with, New Japan wanting to preserve their current relationships with CMLL and AEW. It could be just a loyalty factor. It's a huge thing in Japanese businesses. And it could be that they just couldn't get it done with WWE because the asking price was just. We're never going to know. Here's the key thing. We are never, ever probably going to know the exact reason. And I think people think they know exactly why. But, look at this thing in terms of Okada, in terms of the Double Dome last year. Are we ever actually going to know fully whether Tanahashi was going to retire at the Double Dome last year, and that's why there was a Wrestle Dynasty night afterwards, to make up and compensate for it when Okada left? No, we're never going to know. So it's like, we can suspect, we can have, some details, but will we ever know for sure? Probably not, because that's also the way that, the Japanese industry works sometimes, and it's where it's different from here, where, everyone would know a different version of the story within 5 minutes. But it's, so it's one of those things where I can't put it on everyone, but I think you're right in terms of there are too many things that we don't blame New Japan for. Or we do blame New Japan for, but we also want to find a scapegoat. Right. And New Japan are responsible for the fact that they didn't create anybody in that period after, Naito won in 2020. And yes, COVID was a big kind of, hit for them. But they missed so many opportunities to elevate people. They kept that static top. They had Okada just fucking around doing whatever he wanted rather than putting people over, which he should have been. Yes. So all those sort of things, they missed them opportunities. Look at the junior match that's just been announced for Wrestle Kingdom Cup. We've got a 4-way junior number one contenders match. Yikes. So that's what we really needed, was another fucking House of Torture match on the fucking show. But it's like, so you can point to so many things this year in the booking. You can look at, the Takeshita thing is a prime example. So you get Takeshita and you present him really well last year at Wrestle Kingdom weekend. You have him in the match with Shingo Takagi, you have him in the match with Tomohiro Ishii, and it's like, great presentation. Okay, let's start this guy rolling. He's already up against it in the fact that he's a former DDT guy. And again, we spoke about how, in Japan, they are like football teams. They aren't receptive to people who come from other companies. That's just how it is. It's harder for them. So, okay, we're going to do all these sort of things. And maybe we can't afford to bring him in for all the dates that, we probably need him to, for some to accept him, in a prominent position. So we need to make the most of what we get out of him. And they haven't done it. And the G1 was a complete and utter fuck up. To the point where you had the crowd cheering for Evil. And you could see it coming. We could see it coming for days before. And you're like, please don't do this. Please don't do this. And it's like, it's lazy booking. And it's that lone lack of focus. Zack Sabre Jr. does, dickhead heel stuff. And then has to turn face and heel about 50 fucking times because he's now facing House of Torture. And now he's got to put it over to Keshta. And you're making such a complete mess out of this. This year started off actually really strong for them. You think about, coming out of Wrestle Kingdom, going into the Goto title run, and how much of a feel-good moment that was, and then they squandered it. And then they squander it for more. And now we're in a position where you are losing Tanahashi. And it's great that we've got to have this, 40,000 crowd. We're going to have the biggest number since the made-up numbers of the 1990s in the Tokyo Dome. He's going to deliver that last of those promises when he originally set out his little promises when he became president. I want to put 40,000 people in the Tokyo Dome. Well, he's going to do it. And it's great that it's for Tanahashi, and he deserves it because, he's been an incredible role model for that company. He's been an incredible ambassador for that company. And to me, he's the greatest babyface there has ever been. That's my opinion. And it's like, great. But it doesn't solve the next day. And if you don't have, this is a huge platform. You want to sell the next year off this platform. So, you've got Aaron Wolf debuting, and he's debuting with Evil. That's what they decided on as his trainer. That's where it's ended up. Other people pitched for it. That's the way the cookie crumbles sort of thing. But it's like, that has to be big. It has to work. You know, that's why you're on primetime television in Japan, live. Well, not live, it's primetime television, 2 hours later. So that is huge. That has to work. You have to get that right. You can't do this fucking malaise booking, that we've had all year, where we move a title to some person, we move it back, but we don't actually put any energy or effort into fucking anything. Like, you can't do that. And then you need to get your world title picture right as well. Let me make it clear. I am very much on the opinion that everything here is complicated. New Japan, if they wanted to stand up more in their booking, they could do, right? It's their show. It's 40,000 people. It's likely to be the biggest. Well, they're still going to be cool. I think it will be the biggest non-WWE show next year. Sorry. But it's like, so these are their decisions. If they make it an AEW subsidy show at the end, and it's all about Okada and Takeshita, well, then you fucked up. Because you've got Yota Tsuji. Yeah? He might not be perfect. He might not be Takeshita in the ring, but he's perfectly fucking capable. He has a connection with that audience. Last year at Wrestle...
live event charisma.
It's just his smile, right?
Just a tremendous live event charisma from that guy. Woo! What a performer.
But, look, he might not be, the most talented guy in the ring, but he has a connection with that crowd. Now, I don't think it was any secret that last year at Wrestle Kingdom, the most over match and the biggest moment on that January 4th show wasn't, Takeshita and Shingo Takagi, which was expected to be the best match. In fact, it wasn't even the best match, that match. It was David Finlay and Yota Tsuji. Because Tsuji is very, very good in those moments of getting that emotional response. And I think he's far fucking cleverer. I told you I was going to make this argument, and I fucking am. He's far cleverer than people give him credit for, right? So this is a guy that, and maybe I'm biased because I watched him develop. I watched him from people thinking he was the worst of the 4 young lions at the time, to becoming the strongest of the 4 young lions. So maybe I am biased on that. But this is a guy that went out and he figured out how to work in the UK, which not everyone does. Looking at you, Shota Umino. And he didn't pick up any of the bad habits. And then he goes to Mexico and he figures out that style as well. And he's diversifying and he's figuring out all his different bits and pieces and he's doing under the radar. He's not talking about it. He's not loud. He gets on with it. He comes back. He has the match with Sonata. Should he have been put over in that match with the belt? Probably. Did they do it? No. There you go. That's just how things happen sometimes. And then he takes the opportunities that he gets. He takes the opportunity with the New Japan Cup the other year. And he has a match with Naito and that sort of thing. And, he's built himself as well a lot of little rivalries. And the way he speaks, he's clever. So you look at Gabe Kidd, right? Gabe Kidd does this, I am Shin Nihon Desu and all this stuff. And I represent New Japan. And, he does it so forwardly, openly, that then when he goes to AEW, he looks like a bit of a geek this year. And his booking's been pretty poor all year ever since. And it's difficult because I think once you get someone that's jumping back and forth between both companies, it's really difficult for someone to focus on them in one. And that's what we're seeing. It's and then it's so disruptive. And I don't know how well that works, to be honest, when it comes to actually someone at top level. Maybe you can get away with it if you're doing just a match here, match there, like it's sort of like the old independent thing. But I don't think you can do it on the top level. I just don't see it. But, Gabe made it his whole personality, right? I am New Japan, I'm not this, I'm not that. And then now what is his personality? Oh, I'm just a madman in it. Okay, great, well done. Whereas Tsuji has made it a point of, he's going to say these things, but he's going to do it in his Tokyo Sports interviews. He's going to do it on the underneath. It's not his whole thing. But actually, he set himself up with, oh, look, he's got a Naito match in his back pocket, right? You ever going to do that? You can do that. You can bring him back and you can do that. You've set him up with an Okada match because he's been sniping at Okada for 2 fucking years now. The guy that just gives the bird on AEW television. That's what you called him. You've set that up. He's got the Gabe Kidd programs, he can go back to. He can do stuff with Goto and you can go back with that. If you want to go and do a defense against Sonata, for fuck's sake, you could do that, But he's got the Finlay stuff he can work with. And I'm not saying you have a ton of people on your roster that you can work with that are great here. But out of everyone in there, he's the one that's built all these connections, all these potential stories, all these things that can carry him. And, plus his world connections and the places that he can go. So I think it's, and, in terms of gave kids like, oh, I'm New Japan, and and then he turns up in AEW straight after the G1 when he, rather than sticking around, and then Tony Khan's like, oh, I wanted Yota Tsuji for Forbidden Door, but he wasn't available, and he's like swatting it out in Mexico, and and the thing is like, is that because of Tsuji being pushed down the card at Forbidden Door the year before when he was supposed to wrestle Swerve Strickland? Does he hold anything for that? We don't know. And you know what? It's good that we don't know. Because you don't know what the line is. You don't know if he feels that way or you don't know if he doesn't. And that's what makes it easier for him to then build programs in the future. I think he's really fucking clever. I think he has the timing right in terms of that connection with the fans and how to make things go. And it's hard because this year I recognise I fought back, and I might look like a fucking idiot on January 4th for saying this, right? But I thought when he lost the semi-final in the G1, and he started talking about double gold dash and stuff like that, I thought they are literally doing a carbon copy of what they did with Naito, right? So Naito didn't win the G1 in 2019. He then, he'd lost the title to the white belt to Jay White, and after regaining it from Kota Ibushi, and it's like, okay, they're going to literally replicate it and try and give him that moment. And the more and more I think about it, and it's funny actually because the Naito Double Gold Dash was actually a load of bollocks in terms of the lead up. So everyone thinks, oh, it's great because he drew all this money, and it was. But you forget that the actual booking was fucking shite. Sorry, I'm a Naito fan, but it was shite. The moment was fantastic, and you build up and that sort of thing. But the actual lead up booking was shite. But they've tried to replicate it with this one, and it's like the only outcome here that works for New Japan for me is that he goes over. You have to give him that spot at the top now, Takeshita is an awesome, awesome wrestler. I think at the moment he has much more ceiling in AEW potentially than he does in New Japan. And some of that's because, he can't be there all the time. Some of that's because he's from DDT. And some of that is he just doesn't have that connection because they keep changing his fucking character every 5 fucking minutes. But you need a guy that's going to be there, that's going to carry them towards, especially with no Tanahashi. And no Naito. And no Okada. No Jay White. And no Kenny Omega, and none of these other people. So someone's going to have to lift up. And maybe he's not the solution permanently. Maybe he's not going to turn a business around. Maybe he's not Hiroshi Tanahashi. I don't expect him to be. But I think he is the guy for right now. And I think if you fuck that one up, then I will absolutely go apeshit. This has to be his moment. All the confetti, all those sort of things. Use the platform of this 40,000 people in the fucking Tokyo Dome to put this guy over like you should have done 2 years ago. He's ready, and I think he's much more capable of carrying than people think he is.
I think there are a lot of people who are understandably pre-mad. Mm-hmm. And concerned about the worst possible outcomes, end of New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom turning into an AEW side quest for people. Yep. And I think if it does, that anger is absolutely justified. But I'm kind of the opinion of let's wait and see if that actually happens, and go from there, right? But yep. I do agree with you that there's a lot of stuff that, Tsuji winning would make a lot of sense, and it would be kind of weird if he doesn't.
Yeah, I think you can, and if you want to work it into that angle, the Takeshita thing has been so bemusing in terms of his presentation, because one minute you've got Rocky saying, oh, New Japan should have been more valuable to him, and the next minute he's like, oh, Goto, I respect you and stuff, and it's like, it's not helpful. Look, just make him the AEW Invader guy, whether you want to or not. In fact, it'll probably help him long term if you do so. And really put Tsuji over, do that, and then go from there. Yeah. And he has so many more programs lined up and things that he can potentially do without the restrictions, and he can go on the road with that fucking belt, because there's not been enough people on the road with that belt for the last years. Yeah. Other than, Goto for a period and then Zack. And I do want to say something quick about Zack as well. We all know that Zack's not really my favourite type of wrestler. Right? That sort of wrestler. It's like Bryan Danielson. I'm never going to connect to them in the way that I do with the more emotional storytellers. Yes. But I think it's really fucking easy to be a world champion in a company that's on the rise, right? Or that's really successful. And you don't even have to have that great a run. I'm going to use a name that will incite people. But it's like Kenny Omega, New Japan, IWGP IWGP World Champion in 2018. There's nothing, and I acknowledge that he wrestled a G1 with a broken heel, but there's nothing in that whole run other than beginning and end that's memorable. But it doesn't matter, because in that company at the time, he's in that company when they're towards their peak, right? So we look at it as a successful run. And everything creatively is working at their peak as well. So everyone's ideas, everything that's going on, it's great. That is an easier position to be in than to be world champion in a company that has been floundering, that has lost talent left, right, and centre, who can't keep a character direction the same for more than 2 fucking weeks, can't communicate with its talent, can't communicate with talent that used to be there, like when Naito's saying, oh, you know, they asked me about the Tanahashi match and never got back to me. Not the first time they've ghosted anybody this year, by the way, because the G1 was a pretty good example of that.
Yep.
Who are going absolutely mad with House of Torture interference and, you know, making everything about that and not coming up with anything new for the table, not willing to take chances, not willing to take shots. That is a difficult position to be in, to be the leader, seen as the leader of that company. It's fucking hard. And sometimes you've got to say and do things to help change that. That means raising your head against the parapet or saying or being or doing things that are different from where you normally would. That's what kind of being a champion is sometimes. It's not always about being, oh, I'm the guy when everything fucking raises up in business. No, in fact, and then when you look at Tanahashi, you know, this is a guy that had to battle to get them up and out of the dark ages. And this is what other people have to do. It's much, much harder to be in that position because you're never going to be kind of seen as, you know, some big business changer. You're never going to be seen as an important champion or someone that defined that company. But some of the things that you can do underneath while you are champion could be more important than what the other people do when they're on top. And I've left a load of stuff out when I'm saying that there, because it's like you're kind of inferring things that happen. I can't say. But it's like, yeah, I think in time, people realise that he played an important role in trying to stabilise that company and trying to get them out of this kind of repetitive cycle of just stupidity that they've been in for the last couple of years, and to realise where they are, because sometimes they need a wake-up call. And sometimes that's what worries me about this Dome upcoming, is that you're going to see this hugely successful show. Are you going to ignore all these other issues underneath? Are you going to pretend they're not happening? Are you going to pretend that you're on the verge of this brand new, like, fucking amazing cycle of success because of this number, which is driven by Tanahashi and nostalgia and, you know, the want to pay tribute to him, which is absolutely justifiable. But it's like, don't be kind of the same with Cena, right? It's exactly the same with Cena. Yeah. Don't be kind of fooled into thinking that this is something that it's not. These are about these people. It's about Tanahashi. It's about John Cena. It's not about the state of WWE or the state of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And these things that they're there, that are sitting underneath, they need to be fixed. Yeah, so we've gone really heavy on no AEW today, which is kind of fun. I'm just going to skip one question, but cool. So the only thing I'm going to ask is we got a traitors question, and I want to answer it because we can't do it in 2 weeks, can we? So let's do it now. How do you say this? Taikaze? Oh, I really should have asked pronunciation.
Oh, this one is always in my brain, I always call this taxi but I like, you know, when you read it out loud, you're like, but I'm probably not correct there. I know it's not taxi. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
We should have got pronunciation. I didn't. Anyway.
It's Taykzy.
Yeah, on our Discord.
Yes.
They ask, who would make the best traitors and faithfuls in wrestling? So if you've not seen Celebrity Traitors, you should. You should. It's great. Psychological warfare with is very good, and especially with
British people.
British people, yeah. Stephen Fry got voted off for doing the most British thing ever of, oh, for fuck's sake, I'll go on the other team. I've had enough of you all trying to whine about it. Which is great. I love that. So, who would you think would make the best traitors and faithful in wrestling? And we got a list of AEW talent you can look through there, Sarah. So you can pick off that list, or you can think about your own. But who would you think would be the best faithful and the best traitor? Let's do it that way.
All right. I think your best faithful would, of this list, ironically be Don Callis.
You think Don Callis? Surely, like, everyone would think they'd think he's a traitor within, like, 5 minutes.
Well, so here's my question. Do people know, are people going into this blind, or are they do they know who these people are already when you're starting the show? Is it like the celebrity version where they know each other?
They know each other. Let's go like they know each other.
I kind of crack up a little bit about this because I'm thinking about the American version where they had Boston Rob from Survivor, and everybody was like, he's definitely one of the traitors, but they fucking didn't vote him out for like months for some freaking reason. I don't know. I mean, that is a tough one.
See, I think like Eddie Kingston would be the guy that was just like, it's him. It's him. But everyone would just think he's crazy, and they just wouldn't listen to him.
He'd be Joe Marlering it right up.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, that's absolutely Eddie. The idea of Danhausen in this house, why is he on this list?
No.
Why did you put him on this list?
Get him out of here.
Out of here. Gone.
Out of here.
Don Callis is like, yeah, they suspect him, and he'd talk himself out of it for like a few weeks, and then like that, and then...
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think he'd do better than you would expect him to. I think you'd go into it thinking, oh, he's going to get voted out like the first week. It'd be like a freaking Jonathan Ross situation where you're like, why haven't you fucking voted him out yet?
Okay, so Orange Cassidy, would he make a good traitor?
I think yes.
Yeah?
I think he'd be playing things close to the vest. He wouldn't let anybody know what he was actually thinking, and I think a lot of people would just struggle to see him as caring enough to kill people or murder or banish. I think some of it would depend on his demeanor at the round table. But if he could pull it off, yeah.
Tony Storm, traitor or faithful?
I think Tony Storm would probably make a great faithful, but I think people would think she was a traitor.
That's a good one. I had Hiroshi Tanahashi, because everyone would think he was the ultimate faithful.
Yes.
Could you imagine if he was a traitor?
That would be pretty spectacular.
And Naito would be the worst traitor, because like everyone would see him asleep in the day and just think like, yeah, you've been up all night. You've been in turret. He would, right?
No, it's true.
He would. Jeff Jarrett would make a good traitor, you know.
I think Jeff Jarrett would make a good faithful because of that. That he would be
because he can play the sincere guy so much as well.
Yes, and he would also be on to other people, like the carniness of others. He would be suspicious of everyone. He wouldn't let anybody snow him into thinking that they had fooled. He wouldn't be able to fool anybody, or nobody would be able to fool him.
That's interesting. Who would be first killed? And why is it Matt Jackson?
Dude, Matt Jackson would be the worst faithful ever. Everybody would be like, he's clearly a traitor. Like, just walking in the room, people would be like, yeah. He would absolutely be the first one, either murdered or banished. I agree with that.
Yeah, I like that one. Nyla Rose is a good one as well. She'd make a good traitor.
She would.
I do like that one. So, yeah, we've done nothing on AEW this week, but it's obviously Blood and Guts coming up this week. Could be the biggest Dynamite house of the year. So we'll discuss that more next time out. Have I missed anything else? Have I done... I don't know what I've done today.
I think you've done... I think we've done amazing. I'm going to talk how great we've done and congratulate ourselves. Listen... Who was telling these motherfuckers that the WWE was fucked without Cena? We've been saying it for fucking months. Who have you been hearing it from? Not a lot of other people. A lot of other people really happy to glaze how hot WWE is. Not these bitches. These bitches have been telling you that they were fucked, right? Yeah. Fucking told you they were fucked. So, you know. Listen, the dudes take their victory laps all the motherfucking time. Let's take our victory lap. We told you so.
Okay, yeah. They'll drive record profits for the foreseeable future, but, you know, one cog's off the wheel.
Money is not popularity.
Exactly. So, there you are. But yeah.
I'm really excited for the Logan Paul CM Punk feud. I feel like that's going to be really good. You're going to get a tremendous quality of matches. There's not going to be a weird obsession with AEW that gets pushed into every potential, promo and moves. That won't be there. That comes up at all. Nobody's going to be gotten to.
We'll see if he's learned how to do a buckshot lariat, you know.
Neither one of them has. I'll tell you that right now.
No. Couldn't do it in 2022.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. And before I get myself in trouble.
Okay, well, this has been the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, and
it fucking has.
And you're going to tell me off for this, but I'm going to fucking do it anyway. So, yeah, we have been away for a month, and it's my fault.
It's not anybody's fault. Jesus.
No. Wait. Look. No, I think it's, I like being honest with people, and sometimes life isn't easy, and we'd rather, be able to give things our full focus and deliver on that than basically me come on here and be fucking miserable and not have watched anything and not been able to concentrate and only watch Celebrity Traitors for 6 weeks. Although, our Discord seemed quite happy to do a Celebrity Traitors episode, so maybe we should have done. But, no, we really appreciate you sticking with us. I know the schedule's been very up and down this year. And yeah, sometimes life's difficult and there's a real life element to things as well as like just wrestling. And this is our reprieve, this is something we enjoy doing. Always enjoy doing it. We enjoy all the feedback, we enjoy the interaction, and sometimes you have to take yourself away, and I think that's healthy, and especially if you're not enjoying something. So when I've thrown things at the TV 3 times because Gabe Kidd changed character direction on 3 house shows, then maybe it is time to take a break. So we appreciate you all for being back with us, and hopefully things will be a bit more settled as we go through the winter. If you have any questions, you want to contact us, want to feed us anything back, I believe I had a message saying, "Oh, your Blue Sky account's still broken, Sarah."
Oh.
But hey, there we are.
Oh.
You can hear. Yeah, sorry. Not gonna fix it.
What's the number of the bus I just got thrown under? Oh, did it just go by? Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Like you have buses at the end of your road. Like,
I do have a bus at the end of my road.
Serious?
Yes. Did you take it?
No. I got an Uber to the train station.
Well, I do have a bus at the end of my street.
All right, fair. Right, I threw you under that one. Yeah, okay. Anyway, you can email us at trishandsarahpod@gmail.com.
You can.
trishandsarahpod@gmail.com. You can find us on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it these days. Elon Musk's nonsense place. I don't know.
Shithole.
Yeah. You can find us at Trish and Sarah. You can also find us on Blue Sky under our own names. Or tag us in something there. Someone will find us. I don't know. You can find us on the board. You can find us. Where else do we exist? Board. Where else do we exist? Do we go anywhere else?
Our Discord.
Our Discord. Oh shit! Yeah. Yeah, you can find us on the Social Suplex Discord. Come and hang out with all the hosts from the Social Suplex Podcast and many other fans from around the wrestling world. Get involved in a lengthy Nakamura discussion, which I may be tiring of a little bit, but hey, we are where we are. Yes, so come and join us there. It's always great fun to interact with everybody there. We need more days like the Orange Cassidy song vote because it's still one of my favourite things of this year.
That was a good time.
So it was, yeah, like full on craziness. But yeah, come out and hang with us there. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll have full gear.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we'll have
what I'm calling Wrestle Dream Part 2. Now more, duh.
Well, I may be more interested in this one than you are, but we'll see how we go in a couple of weeks. Obviously, we'll have Blood and Guts as well, so probably be more AW focus on that one. And maybe we'll see some returns or surprises. Who knows?
You can't. I'm praying emojis. What's happening right now?
Yeah, we'll see, won't we? We'll see where that goes. But until then, I've been Trish,
and I have been Sarah.
And we are produced by the wonderful Leah of Tunnel Talk.
Nice save! Oh, you did the best! Oh my god.
You can listen to Tunnel Talk every Sunday. I'm dying.
Yes, we are produced by the wonderful Leah of Tunnel Talk, and you can listen to Tunnel Talk on the Social Suplex Network every Sunday, and you should if you're not, because the Samoa Joe... everything they're discussing is just better than I think we could even come up with it, and yeah, it's just brilliant. And if you haven't gotten your imaginary Tunnel Talk notebook to put the wisdom of Tunnel Talk in, you're missing out. So yeah,
everyone needs a notebook. Right, that's us. This has been Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. See you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Bye.